This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everybody, to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have a good neighbor with us. Her name is Erin Moreau of Get Organized with Erin. She's very organized. How are you, dear?
I'm good. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing very well. It's been a little while since the last time we got to chit-chat, so super happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Very cool. So why don't we go ahead and dive in, because I know what you do, but for our listeners, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
So I am a professional organizer, and my business is helping busy families find order amongst the chaos and start to love their spaces again. And it's helping them create the habits and the systems that are required to be organized.
Habits and systems. Okay, so let's kind of unpack this a little bit. So when we're talking about habits and systems, like what do you typically see when you're out there? You have somebody reach out, or you find somebody who's kind of interested in this type of thing. What does that mean, these habits and systems that we're talking about?
So what they're looking for is they start with the feeling of so much overwhelmed that they just don't know how to get organized. They feel like their house is a disaster. They're completely unorganized, and they're frozen with a decision paralysis. They don't know where to start, how to start. And so they reach out to a professional organizer like us at Get Organized with Erin, and we help them get through that process from the I'm so embarrassed of my space and I'm at the breaking point and have to reach out for help, right through to the, oh my goodness, I love my space again because now it's functional. It's not always about the rainbow order of things. It's finding the systems. So whether it's open baskets or stuff in cupboards and closed boxes,
Right.
It's finding the system that's working for that family or that individual that they're able to maintain, because everybody's different. So there isn't a hard cut system that is going to work for absolutely everybody. We all have different personalities and different needs and are at different stages in our lives. And it's got to work for those people that I'm working with. And so it's always a challenge. And it's what keeps my job fun, is finding the solutions that's going to work for each individual.
All right, so it sounds like it's, you're implementing quite the, a bit of a process for people that they kind of have to follow. Are they around when you're kind of helping them organize? Are they part of this process?
We prefer to have them there. It's not always the case. Sometimes, we're just going in and we're sorting items. So the first session would be us going through and putting things in like categories and leaving a pile of homework for the client when they get home from work that says, please decide, are you keeping, donating, or tossing these items? I don't make the decision to toss anything unless it's actual 100% rubbish, like candy wrappers or something like that, without the client's permission, because sometimes what I think could be garbage is actually, a note from a grandma from years and years ago that is very sentimental and they want to hold on to. When we're working with the client, we talk them through the steps. So as we're taking things out of a closet and we're sorting it into the piles and they decide they want to save it, oh, that belongs in the kitchen, or I want to give that to my little sister, or that can be donated. We make those decisions with them right then and there. So it's walking them through that sorting process. Then it's walking them through how to put things back with like, but in a way that makes sense for them, because there's no sense in giving prime real estate in a closet to something you're only going to wear once or twice a year, for example. So it's
Right.
Looking at their lifestyle and their habits and making sure that the systems are easy for them to keep up, because that's the biggest fail, is they try to put a system in place and it's just not the right system for them. And they can't keep up on it.
Well, that makes sense. Do you get much, it seems it's quite custom. Obviously, you're treating every person you're going to the home, whether they're a couple or not, and trying to help them implement these systems. Do you get much resistance from people on sometimes you're making a suggestion?
There can be.
Yeah.
one of my favorite lines I get from clients when we go into spaces that they have not been in for years, and all of a sudden we come across an item and they're like, "Oh, I've been looking for that." And then we have to sit back and evaluate how hard were you actually looking for that item. It's got 2 inches of dust because it was found in the bottom back corner of the basement. And so we have techniques where we talk them through some of those tougher items that they're not, I've been looking for that for, 2 years, but you haven't looked in the basement and that's where it's been. So do you really need it? Do you have something that's replaced that item that you actually prefer? And if the answer to that is yeah, we've replaced it, but I really want to let's use a casserole dish for example. I really want to use my grandma's casserole dish instead of the one I got at Walmart 3 years ago because it means more. Then let's donate the one you got from Walmart and bring the grandma's dish up and start putting it into the rotation of dishes that we're using. So it's a give and take. Sometimes you do come across some items that are really hard. And again, I'm not I we can't force someone to get rid of something they don't want to. So it's either putting it in a place where they're able to use it or a place where they'll remember where it is. Um, and sometimes they just have to tell the story about the item. When we get into sentimental items, it's, they tell us the story about what that piece means to them. And when they finish the story, all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I feel better about knowing somebody else, if it's going to donation, somebody else is going to love it and somebody else is going to have those stories to go with it. And they're okay to do that. Or it's getting put back into our system and we account for that in our plan.
Speaking about stories, what is your story? Tell our listeners about your journey and how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Ooh, it's a different journey. I always used organizing as a child as a form of procrastination.
Right.
I was not a good high school student. The academics were not my thing. Phys ed, whole other game.
Sounds a little bit like me.
but it was not my thing. I was always, and I'm about to age myself because I was always rearranging my cassettes.
Okay.
Before CDs came out, CDs and Columbia House just made it a lot easier for me to collect more stuff. But I would rearrange cassettes every other week. It'd be by title of the album, by artist, by my favorites. Then I would put it in an order that made sense. So it was pretty to look at. Same with books and clothing. I was always rearranging and organizing as a form of procrastination. And then years later, I've been, had many, many different jobs and careers throughout my lifetime. And I was working with a life coach a few years back after I had my son, and I didn't know who I was anymore other than a mom and partner to my husband. I had lost my passion for massage therapy at that point in time and didn't want to go back into that. But what am I going to do? How am I able to contribute to help others? Because I'm a healer. I enjoy helping others and seeing their results. That bring to paraphrase Marie Kondo, that brings me joy, right? That sparks joy in me, is seeing other people have results from things I'm helping them with and things they're learning from me. And we had gotten to a point in our house, we have a small space that I had to move stuff to put down a cup of coffee in the morning.
Okay.
And that was not okay with me anymore because there was so much baby stuff and work stuff and home stuff and dog stuff and toddler stuff all over that it was exactly where my clients start. I was in that state of overwhelm. I didn't know what to do. So we shipped the kids off to grandma and papa's for a weekend. And I asked my husband, I said, just one space, just give me the living room. Let's tear it apart. Let's organize it so it makes sense. And we could feel a shift. There was an energetic shift in the house. There was an energetic shift in us. We had more patience. We were trying to potty train our toddler at the time.
Right.
And instead of like losing my mind because she's peeing on something on the floor because she didn't make it to the toilet. First of all, there was nothing left on the floor for her to pee on because it all had a home now. But we still had more patience, and there was less stress. And I was explaining this to my life coach, and she says, have you ever thought of being a professional organizer? And I'm like, is it a thing? I had no idea that it was a real thing. And so went home, and between sessions, I started researching, because I procrastinate that way. I will research things and read up about it before I jump 2 feet in. And I'm like, I can do this. This is something that could really make me happy. And I can work my own hours and work from home and work around my young family at the time. And I decided, after Christmas that year, I was going to do this. I was going to do training to learn what techniques were out there and all the stuff that a professional organizer does. And that year at Christmas is when the Marie Kondo series came out on Netflix. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. Oh my gosh. And then unfortunately, the pandemic hit, and I took advantage of that time and did trainings and learnings and read. I'm almost embarrassed about my book collection on organizing. But I read as much as I could, because I took advantage of that time so that I could offer clients different solutions, not a box order for everybody. I can now help them, and customize to each individual. So that's how I've done it. It's been 4 years since I registered my business, and 3 years that I've been seeing clients, and I am not looking back, and things are just getting better and more exciting with each client.
Very nice. What are some things clients will say to you after you organize their home?
The best one is, this is life changing.
Cool.
All of a sudden they can find things, they're saving time. They are so grateful that they love their space again. They're so grateful that they can move in their space sometimes. It's just a matter of having stuff put away that they can enjoy the space. And they're just, I just love when they tell me how happy they are that they did reach out and follow through with it. And I check back with them too. So it's not oh my goodness, thank you for everything you've done as I'm walking out the door. I check back a couple weeks later, because I want to make sure that those systems are working. Like, it's all fine. I say, okay, this is how it works, and walk out the door and never check in. And what if after a week you realize that your 4-year-old is not able to keep the system up because it doesn't work for them?
Right.
So we got to sometimes tweak things, and it's when they say how life-changing it was, and it motivates them to either go further with me, and do more spaces, or they've taken what I've taught them through our sessions and start applying it to the rest of their home. And it just, when they're smiling and they're so happy with their space, that to me is the best thing that I can hear. I don't need to hear how fabulous I am. I want to hear how good they're doing.
That's a wicked. I definitely know the feeling. My mother helped me rearrange my room at least once a year. And I remember those feelings I would get when you would change it all around. It's got a bit of a different look. You clean up the clutter, get rid of the stuff you don't need, and you're just much more kind of efficient. And like you said, the room itself will have a different vibe to it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep, for sure.
are there any like misconceptions or myths when it comes to what you do?
One of the biggest ones is, it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me so much money to get organized, because a lot of people, you go on Pinterest and you see all those beautiful clear acrylic containers and all the fancy labels and the wicker baskets and such. And I mean, it can be expensive to get organized, but a lot of the time you already have everything you need. And once you start purging and sorting things, you're going to have empty containers and empty baskets that you can reuse. When I come into clients' houses, we quite often will have a couple bins and baskets and stuff just from the dollar store. So it's not an expensive thing, because again, until we know that the system's working, I don't want people to go out and buy all the bins and baskets and stuff. Because if we buy all that stuff and that system doesn't work, you have wasted so much money, but it doesn't have to be. So it's not expensive to get organized. It doesn't have to cost you a penny. Another thing is that people are too concerned that they can't stay organized. And again, that goes back to just having the wrong systems in place, or they're just so embarrassed of their space and they're afraid that an organizer is going to come in and say, you have to get rid of all of it. An organizer is going to be some really hard to deal with person that's going to force them into getting rid of things and doing things they don't want to do. And that's not the case. And if that is the case, you're working with the wrong organizer. The organizer's got to listen to you. It's your stuff, and we can't force you to get rid of what you don't want to get rid of. Instead, we make that work. So there's those kinds of misconceptions, or they think I'm going to put everything in a rainbow order, or I'm going to only let them keep things that spark joy. And that's, again, it's not the case, because sometimes we have to keep some stuff that doesn't really spark joy. Like my vacuum does not spark joy for me,
Right.
but I really kind of have to keep it.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good. People need to know that, right? You come in and
yeah.
get to work with a custom professional who's going to come in and not tear your life apart. They're there to try to make it better. And so, myth busted.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so when you're not working on the business or in the business, I'm a big proponent of having that kind of life work harmony. As we've been saying in the past, balance makes it all equal. It's never equal. But
No.
having harmony between them, when you're not working, what do you like to do for fun?
I like to travel. We travel to visit friends and family down in the US on a regular basis. I am a mom. The activities my kids are involved make me so happy. I'm a dance mom. I'm a taekwondo mom, a baseball mom, and watching my kids do their chosen activities, that makes me so happy. I'm an avid reader. I absolutely love reading, and I now, to the point I have to rotate between like pleasure books and business books, because I will sometimes just have too many of one and not enough of the other categories. Shopping, going to baseball games, going to hockey games, and just camping, chilling with my family. I had my family much later in life, and I am embracing the memories that we're making, and spending with grandparents, and just uh, breathing and enjoying life. I just, I find that's what keeps me motivated to do what I am doing, so that I can just take those moments and, take a Friday off because I have to go to a dance competition.
I mean, that's the best part about being self-employed, right? We get
Yeah,
to make our own schedules how we want to make it. Where do you go
100%.
camping when you go camping? You travel to different spots, or you got like a specific honey hole you go to? Or?
So we've just, in the last 2 years, this is going to be our third summer camping. I was a Georgian Bay boater for many, many
Oh
years,
yeah,
and always had my favorite spots up there around Beausoleil Island. So now my goal with my husband is to try a different campground. Provincial campgrounds are our favorites,
yeah.
and we try to keep it different each time. So we have, in 3 years, we have yet to visit the same park twice.
Nice. Yeah, always fun when you can get out there in nature. We went to, I grew up going up to the trailer on the weekends and doing fishing, and you make friends there, and the
Yeah.
kids get to play and swim and spend some time in the sun and all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah. And we go the non-electric route, so there's no tablets or anything like that. And
yeah,
it's books. I get to sit by a fire and read. I mean, come on.
yeah, totally. I love it. Campfires, the whole bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How many kids you got?
I have two and an angel baby. So
Okay, very nice. And when you head down to the US, you always go to a specific spot where your friends are, or?
we do. We head down to Cincinnati, which is where my best friend is. She married a lovely gentleman from Cincinnati, so she moved down there because it's much easier for Canadians to go there than it is for the Americans to come here, especially in her situation. And my mom and I also own property down in Florida, so we go
Nice.
down to. I go down to Florida 3 times a year. I think it works out. And 2 of those times are just for about 24 hours, so I can get my mom there safely. And then we go down as a family for 2 weeks, normally around March break, and catch some baseball and a little bit of golf, maybe.
Whereabouts in Florida?
We're in Crystal River, which is on the Gulf Coast, and it's not a well-known town unless you happen to watch any shows on manatees.
Okay.
And Crystal River is where a lot of those shows are filmed because of all the natural springs that keeps the water temperature ideal for manatees in the winter.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
I have friends in Clearwater, so
Yep.
south of
Okay.
Tampa.
Yep.
So I'm very familiar with the Gulf Coast down there, and we usually go about once. Sometimes I'll get down there twice, but we always try to make a promise. I got 3 best friends that live down there.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
we try to get out there.
Yeah. We're north of Clearwater, and I love it. So we can get to Disney in an hour and a half. So
Yeah,
can't complain.
We talked about that all day.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change gears a little bit here. Sometimes we never get to control life. It does the controlling for us, and sometimes it yanks us in all kinds of different directions where we have to face certain challenges. Sometimes we go through life hardships. And I'm curious to ask you if you've ever been through a life hardship or a challenge in your life where you overcame that, maybe it made you better, made you stronger for it.
I've had several, for sure. I got married at one point and was divorced shortly thereafterwards. It was a learning experience because I did do it again, and then now happily married. But my husband and I, as I mentioned, we have an angel baby. So between our 2 kids, we did have another pregnancy, and it ended up with a stillborn. And so that journey was really something I don't wish on anybody. It really changes a lot about your life when you have that taken away from you, and it's a hard thing to deal with mentally. And I think part of that is why my normally organized house fell apart, is because of the mental and emotional struggles with the grieving process that I was going through after losing our Cullen. And even after we had our little boy, I still was afraid. There was still that guilt, and so it just added then grieving and such from losing Cullen to the postpartum depression that came along with our next baby. And it was a lot. I hit rock bottom, and there was depression, there was all sorts of stuff to deal with, and it not only made me stronger and realize how much I can actually do, and how many, I can survive the worst thing that a mother has to survive. And as a couple, my husband and I survived the worst thing that parents have to or hopefully they don't ever have to go through it, but the worst thing parents could go through is losing a child. And yeah, so that to date is probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to gone through. It trumps any teenage depression or anxieties or anything I had before that. So
Definitely, people never really know until you're told. People, I think they're quick to judge a book by its cover. It's not really until you can have deep, meaningful conversations that you can understand what one person has gone through. And you never wish it on anybody, but it's a real thing. And happy that you made it through. That like you said, it made you stronger. And that goes with my significant other has gone through some things in her life with her health, and she's teaching me how to get the world to stop spinning for a bit, try to enjoy those moments. When you're in those moments, you could hear it early in the interview when you're talking about how you like to have fun, that it will change your perspective on life.
Oh, 100%. If you'd asked me, at 35, if I ever saw myself going to my kids' baseball games or being a dance mom, that was a hard no. I had been told kids were not a part of my future for years. And when all of a sudden I she knows that she was a surprise pregnancy. It changed everything. And here I am now, and I'm not not afraid to admit, I'm almost 48 and I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. I never thought I would be, an older mom, let alone a mom. And my perspective and what is important has definitely changed. It's no longer about the shoes and purses and getting my hair done all the time like it used to be. It's now, the dance costumes and the baseball games. And every moment I can be there for them, I'm embracing it, because I do know that it's not the case for everybody all the time.
Right. What's one thing that you wish that our listeners knew about your business?
Oh, goodness. Something that I wish they knew is that it's not scary. It's not scary to work with a professional organizer, and there's no need to ever be embarrassed. I actually will ask people not to clean their houses before I come. Don't clean your houses before you take the pictures to send me, before I do an estimate, because I want to see how you're living, because that is going to make it a better system for you, because I know what is working and what's not working already. Yeah. And it's not scary. And there's so many different ways that you can work with an organizer outside of having them come into your home. Even there's virtual organizing, there's, online courses and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways that you can do it without being scared. Like, just if you're thinking about it, don't be scared. There's always, most organizers I know, we offer what we call a discovery call. And most times it's a free 30-minute call that you can just talk about it and get comfortable with the idea. And there's never any pressure. Even when you're working, there's never any pressure. So there's no need to be afraid.
Very good. And if people are interested and they want to know more, what would be the best way that they can reach you?
Best way to reach me is by a contact on my website, which is www.gowitherin.com. So it's www.gowitherin.com. I'm on Instagram as Get Organized with Erin. Facebook as well is Go with Erin. And I'm actually soon, at the end of the week, you should be able to hear me on a weekly podcast on Spotify, and it's called You Can Be Organized with Erin. So
phenomenal. Love the puns that you got in there. That's really cool. Really happy to have you on the show. Great conversation, great person. Love your business. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. It's been a blast. I enjoyed myself.
No worries. We'll chat soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.